I'm going to sit out game one, kind of see how the matchups go. And then after that, I will be making my moves. But initial reaction to this matchup, I think when you look at the Mavericks, it's a really hot team. They certainly have way more playoff experience than this Timberwolves team. When you have guys like Luka Doncic, of course, Kyrie Irving has been fantastic in the postseason, and he's played in some massive games in his career. But there's a big matchup issue, I think, when it comes to down low. Of course, the Mavericks did some things to shore up their post play, adding guys like Daniel Gafford. But still, when you go against guys like Rudy Gobert, who shut down Nikola Jokic as best as you can shut down Nikola Jokic in the fourth quarter of that game 7 on the road, and you have guys like Karl-Anthony Towns, who, if he can stay out of foul trouble, those are two very good post players, even though Karl-Anthony Towns likes to wander around the perimeter. Still, Rudy Gobert, I think, is going to be the X factor here. I think the T-Wolves are going to dominate the boards. They're going to get plenty of second chance looks because they did that against Denver. They have the MVP of the league. They were still getting plenty of offensive rebounds and second chance looks. So I'm going to go with the T-Wolves here. I think they are the more talented squad. And even if there is a letdown here, which I know is probably a big thing here, when you come off a game where you upset the defending NBA champs, maybe there's an emotional hangover. But Anthony Edwards wasn't even that great in game 7 when he scored 16 points in that one. So there is actually room for him to improve in this one. So I'm going to go with the T-Wolves. That's my gut feeling. However, I'm probably not going to play it officially.
I think you're right about Anthony Edwards. The interesting thing about him is that even when he isn't scoring, he finds other ways to affect the basketball game in a way that really just permeates throughout that Timberwolves roster. And honestly, that goes back to Rudy Gobert. If you listen to those guys on that roster, and they will tell you that Rudy Gobert, when he came to the Timberwolves and part of that trade from the Jazz, that because he was such a great defensive player, that the other guys were able to sort of learn from that and take similar steps and say, okay, I may be a good offensive player, but what can I do defensively to make myself a more well-rounded individual in the NBA? So everyone plays great defense on that roster, and Ant Edwards is one of those guys. So even when he wasn't scoring, or at least scoring at an efficient clip in that final game against the Nuggets, he found ways around the court to make sure that he was able to contribute in a positive manner. And that's why I like the Timberwolves here. I think what Dallas is going to do is they're going to do as much as they can. If it means double teaming Ant Edwards, do whatever they can to sort of mitigate how effective he is when he does have the basketball in his hands. And it may not even matter because he's so effective when he's hot. But ultimately, it's about the other guys on that Timberwolves roster, whether it's Cat, whether it's Gobert, whether it's Naz Reid, Mike Conley. They have enough pieces who stepped up in critical moments in the previous series against the Nuggets, and I feel like that's going to happen in this series. And just based on getting over that hump, I think they can carry the momentum over into this game 1 against Dallas. So I'm like you. It's not a hard play, but I would lean Wolves -4.5.
I'm glad you guys are on the T-Wolves. I want the T-Wolves to win this series. I think game 1 is going to be a little tricky for them. Coming off of that, massive win in game 7 over Denver, I worry a little bit just because Dallas has experience in these moments and Minnesota doesn't. And so coming off a wild roller coaster of a series and a game 7, of a second half of game 7, and then coming back and having to shift your focus to Dallas, I'm just worried about the start that Minnesota has tonight. And if they get into a deep hole, can they climb out of it? Now, saying that, if Minnesota is down early, I may look to live bet them because their first half throughout the postseason, they are 11th in the first half in terms of scoring and offense. 11th ranked first half offense. They have the top ranked second half offense. So if Minnesota's down big at the half, I would look to live bet them. Even if you can just get them for even money on the money line or something like a -110 on the money line at halftime or something. I may look to jump on that because they have been really good in the second half. I'm just worried that they might start a little sluggish tonight and not fully be able to recover enough to cover this number.
Anytime you see a great starting pitcher matchup and two offenses that are pretty pedestrian, it smells like a first 500 to me. But This is baked into the number already. This one is plummeting. Didn't you say it's down to 7 in some shops for a full game total? So when we're looking at a first 5 under, you got to play 3.5, which ultimately means you need 3. So you either do under 3 at the full number for big plus money, or you go elsewhere. So we've been talking this out. I think the best option is for 7 under 5.5, kind of banking on both of these pitchers being able to go more than 5 innings, because I don't want to trust the bullpens. But you look at both of these offenses, it feels like a perfect recipe for a first 7 under. If you look at both of these offenses, the Tigers and the Royals, both bottom 7 in WRC plus, and plus the Tigers, 9th highest strikeout rate in all of baseball. So Cole should have an easy time stranding some runners here. But I feel like the biggest sabotage factor here is this one almost feels too obvious. Like, I feel like the best options for first 5 unders are pitchers that are kind of under the radar, that are still really good. Like guys like Seth Lugo and Ranger Suarez before, his last few starts, and everybody's like, wow, he's having a great season. But now both these guys are in the Cy Young talks right now. So Jenks, does this one look like it's too good to be true?
It looks that way, but I'm still going to play it. Now, I really like your idea of saying, okay, we'll play it, but let's play it at 3, and then we get plus money or big plus money. I'm still going 3.5. Let's get it. Can we still find it at plus money? I found it last hour, and the thing about these numbers is, even when we put them out after the show, these numbers are very fluid. They're constantly moving. But I'll look again. I might, just for the purposes of this show, I might go under 3.5 first 5. But I think you're right that ultimately this is where you go for some big plus money and you say, hey, let's hope this game is 2-0, 1-0, or a shutout after 5.
All right, best bet of the day for me is going to be the best get-right spots of the season. I am hoping for Blue Jays pitcher, Toronto starter, Chris Bassett. I'm going to go under his earned runs prop tonight, under 2.5 earned runs for minus 155. It's a little juicy, but he's facing the Chicago White Sox. If there's ever a time to get your season turned around, it's against the worst offense in all of baseball. If you look at team batting average, guess who's dead last? The Chicago White Sox. If you look at WRC plus, guess who's dead last in the league? The Chicago White Sox. If you look at OPS, guess who's dead last? That would be the Chicago White Sox. Are we sensing a trend here? So I know Chris Bassett has had kind of a tough start to the season, but under 2.5 earned runs here against an offense that not only has been bad, but also terrible in the first 5 innings. The worst run-scoring offense in the first 5 innings of play. I think it's a good spot for Chris Bassett, who has been very dependable. Like, his numbers aren't good this year, but he has had 6 straight seasons with an ERA at 3 or better. So I think he will return to form, especially at home facing the worst offense in baseball. Chris Bassett under 2.5 earned runs, minus 155.
All right. Yeah, you said it. You're going to back any pitcher, do it against the Chicago White Sox. They're so bad at the plate. I am hoping the Giants will be good at the plate today against the Pirates because I'm going Jared Jones under 7.5 strikeouts, minus 155. Now, Jones has the potential to be really, really good, even better than his numbers are this season. But it's hard to justify this number being so high based on his previous starts this season. In 9 starts this year, Jones has eclipsed 7.5 only 3 times, and he doesn't go long in games. I believe his longest outing this season was 7 innings. Normally he goes 6 or less. Also, I know the Giants aren't a good hitting club, but over the past week, had one of the best averages in all of baseball, 11th lowest strikeout rate in the sport. I'm going to lay the juice here. I need a dub. Jared Jones under 7.5 strikeouts, minus 155.